I wanted to share with y'all a revelation that God gave me. I don't even think I was 3 sentences in and I got hit. This is the story of Joseph. And if you don't know much about the story of Joseph, I really implore you to go read it because it is a beautiful story. It's a story of a man, a boy who was given dreams by God of what he was going to do in his life in the future. But then Joseph had to go through a process, and that process was difficult. He was sold into slavery by his brothers. He was lied on, and he was falsely accused and imprisoned, and he had to stay in these places for years. So the story of Joseph is beautiful, especially if you have a promise from God and you are in that waiting season, in that process. Joseph's story is such a beautiful one to pull inspiration and encouragement from, because he went through it, but then God positioned him to second in command to king over all of Egypt. That's the backstory of Joseph. So it said, sometime later, the cupbearer and the baker of the king of Egypt offended their master, the king of Egypt. Pharaoh was angry, that's the king, with his 2 officials, the chief cupbearer and the chief baker, and put them in custody in the house of the captain of the guard, in the same prison where Joseph was confined. And when I read that, I was like, oh my God. God dropped the revelation in me, and I was like, it said he put them in custody in the same prison where Joseph was confined. Joseph was in prison innocently. He didn't deserve to be there. The revelation that I got is that God will spiritually imprison you. God will spiritually confine you to develop you. And you can't wiggle out of it. It ain't nothing you can do to get out of it. It's like you got to learn the lesson and then you'll be released. It goes to show that God is in complete control. When he's developing you, when he has a purpose and a plan for your life, because Joseph was in his process to get to where God was taking him, but he had to go through a difficult process to be developed, to be able to be head over an entire nation. You know what I'm saying? He had to go through a process. This is the part where Joseph was interpreting dreams. The men who came in there, the cupbearer and the chief baker, they both had dreams. And Joseph was able to interpret dreams through God. So he interpreted the dreams for them, and Joseph told them his backstory. Joseph was like, hey, I ain't supposed to be in here. You know what I'm saying? When you get out, go tell them like that this was me and I ain't supposed to be in here. He said, but when all goes well with you, remember me and show me kindness. Mention me to Pharaoh and get me out of this prison. Joseph wanted to be out of there. Who wouldn't want to be out of prison? And you in there unjustly? You in there innocently? But all throughout the story, when Joseph had to go to these difficult places and through this difficult process, all throughout it said, but God was with him. But God was with him. But God was with him. So Joseph was like, he said, for I was forcibly carried off from the land of the Hebrews, from his land. And even here I had done nothing to deserve being put in a dungeon. Like, he was ready to get up out of there. So then it said, the chief cupbearer, however, did not remember Joseph. He forgot him because it was a part of God's plan. So when the chief cupbearer got out of there and Joseph interpreted his dream correctly and he got out of there, he didn't remember Joseph. He forgot him. But it was God's plan for him to forget him because it wasn't time yet. It said when 2 full years had passed. So Joseph, after this, what I just read, he was in there for 2 more years. God will spiritually confine you to develop you. And you cannot wiggle out of it. He will close doors. He will do whatever he got to do to make sure it's right. To make sure that heart right. To make sure you're humble. To make sure that you are oozing his character. The fruit of the Spirit. You know what I'm saying? Like, he had to be able to be a good leader. And it said wherever God put him, he put Joseph in charge. He was put in a leadership position. Even though it was difficult, God was developing him. And it said 2 full years had passed and Pharaoh had a dream. The king of Egypt had a dream. And then the cupbearer remembered him because nobody could interpret the dream. And that's when the cupbearer was like, hold up. I was in prison with a Hebrew boy and he interpreted my dream. And that's when they were like, get him for me. And that's when God's plan just came to a head, and it was up from there. Like, he was put in second in command to the king. And then it was for his family too. He saved his family. And the dreams that God had given him as a youth were coming to pass, were coming to fruition. But he had to go through this process that took years, double-digit years, until it was time, until he was fully cooked. You know, thank you for listening. I hope that encouraged you. I know it definitely encouraged me to know that God is in complete control. If I am seeking him, if my heart is for him, if I'm pure, if I'm trusting in him, and I'm developing my relationship with him through Jesus Christ, he's not gonna fail me. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's in complete control, and I just have to have faith and trust in that no matter what my circumstances look like. And Joseph is a prime example of that. And it's such an encouraging, inspiring story to draw wisdom and encouragement from. So yeah, I hope that helped. Y'all have a blessed one. We'll talk soon.